Hello, buddy. Welcome back to the Tin Man Score Channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm reacting to my second Midnight Terrors video for you guys, and this was titled 6 Disturbing True Gas Station Horror Stories. So without further ado, I'm going to turn these lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road and in the bag, shall we? Okay, here we go.
This happened back when I was about 19 or 20.
Okay.
During a time in my life when things were just kind of falling apart. I was stressed out constantly and felt like I had zero control over anything. So one of my go-to escapes was this old used bookstore I'd been visiting since I was a kid. They had this great trade-in system where I could swap my old books for store credit, so I hadn't had to spend real money on books in years. The store was in a little strip mall, right next to a 7-Eleven where I'd sometimes grab a soda or cigarettes. And the staff at the bookstore never cared if you brought in a drink or two. That whole area had a weird charm to it, and I felt comfortable there, until this one day. So I was at the 7-Eleven buying smokes, and there were two guys working the counter, probably in their 40s, who started giving me these weird looks. They weren't subtle about it either, just straight up commenting about how I looked way younger than my age when they saw my ID.
You know, it's always nice to go find a store that takes in your old books, movies for store credit so you can use it on buying new stuff from their store. I wish we still had places that run on that system today where I'm at, but that's like slim pickings. Plus, if she goes into the store to buy smokes and these older guys are just looking at her weirdly, then something ain't right. These guys are probably up to no good. Might follow her or try to kidnap her. You just don't know. But I don't want to keep rambling my mouth and popping up weird theories. So let's just continue on with the story and see what happens next, shall we?
And one of them even asked the other, "Doesn't she look like she's still in high school?" It was one of those moments where you laugh awkwardly just to keep the mood from getting tense. But inside you're like, okay, red flag. After that, I figured I'd walk over to the Starbucks across the street to hang out for a bit, but all the tables were taken, so I lit a cigarette out front of the 7-Eleven instead. That's when one of the workers came outside for a smoke too, right as I was lighting up, which already felt a little too coincidental. Trying to shake the weird vibe, I casually wandered back toward the bookstore just to put some distance between us. I spent a while inside flipping through some paperbacks, totally lost track of time, and eventually forgot where I parked, which is pretty on brand for me, honestly. As I was wandering around the lot, trying to figure out where I left my car, I cut between two parked trucks and, bam, one of the 7-Eleven guys popped out of nowhere and blocked my path. He told me I had to come back into the store because the other guy really needed my number. I tried to brush it off with a half joke about needing to get to work, but he stepped in closer and made it physically awkward for me to pass without basically ducking under his arm. He started going on about this party they were having in the back of the store at 5 p.m., which, first of all, who has a party at a convenience store on a weekday?
Red flag. The boss of that convenience store would not let him have a party. He's just saying that just so he could try to lure you back there for a supposed party, but then probably kidnap or do some naughty stuff to you. Just try to walk around him. If he tries to jump in front of you again, get the police involved. Because that ain't right that an employee of a 7-Eleven would try to block off a customer just to say that his co-worker wanted her number and to tell him about a supposed party they're having.
He said I could come hang out, have a few drinks, and just chill with them before they went. I told him again I had somewhere to be and tried to squeeze past him, but the way he kept shifting made it feel like a game of human Tetris. Eventually, I backed off and made a beeline for the 7-Eleven, not because I wanted to go back in, but because I knew they had cameras and figured being inside was safer than being cornered in a parking lot. As soon as I walked in, I saw two cops leaving the store, literally feet away from me. I wanted to call out, wave something, but they were gone before I could even think it through. In hindsight, yeah, I should have yelled, but I froze up. The guy led me back inside like nothing was wrong, and I immediately saw they'd already pulled out little bottles of liquor for me. The other one was talking about how great the party was going to be. Alcohol, fun stuff, the whole deal. And I just kept nodding and faking interest because I knew none of it was real, and I needed to get out of there fast. Then came the part where he just flat out demanded my phone number. The other guy moved over by the door like he was casually blocking it, and I'm standing there holding a soda and a bag of books trying to pretend like I'm not ready to freak out. I ended up giving them a fake number and said maybe I'd catch the next party. I kept smiling and trying to act chill until they finally eased up and let me go. I walked out calmly, but inside I was spiraling because I knew they'd be watching to see where I went. I didn't go to my car. I didn't even look in that direction. Instead, I walked to a nearby store, tried to look casual, and called the dad of the kids I was supposed to nanny that afternoon. The second he answered, I just broke down, completely shaking and crying. His wife wasn't around, so he was the only one I could think to call, and thank God he came. He pulled up out front, I jumped in, and we drove off before those guys could figure out what happened. Later that night, when it was dark, we came back and grabbed my car. To this day, I'm still not sure what those guys were actually planning. Some friends have said maybe it was trafficking, or a kidnapping attempt, or they just wanted to keep me there and get me drunk. I don't know.
You know, I didn't even think about it. It might have been a trafficking thing going on in plain sight. But thank God she did the right thing and called the dad of the kids that she was babysitting. And thank God they didn't go to her car, messed it up in retaliation that she had to leave. But those guys are clearly messed up in the head or just sick, twisted individuals. And when you saw the cops, you should have just yelled out and tell them what these guys are saying. And then you wouldn't have to deal with all this mess. They would have been arrested right there on the spot. But anyway, I'm just glad that she got out of there all right and she's not hurt or anything. And her car was all right and she was able to go home afterwards without them following her. But that is scary. I'm just sorry that happened to her.
So I had something happen tonight that really shook me, and I can't stop thinking about it. It's just past 1:45 in the morning right now, and about an hour ago I went on a quick walk to this gas station that's not far from my apartment, maybe like a third of a mile down the road. I was on FaceTime with my girlfriend the whole time, just chatting as I made my way to the Shell station, which sits right off the highway. When I got there, I noticed this dude standing by the entrance wearing what looked like a full-body white suit, like some kind of hazmat getup, and his whole face was covered with a mask and goggles. He held the door open for me like it was no big deal, so I didn't really think anything of it at the time. Once I was inside, I headed to the back of the store to grab a couple sodas from the fridge, still talking to my girlfriend. That's when I noticed there were actually two guys dressed like that, and they were up on ladders messing with something in the ceiling, like replacing tiles or maybe doing some wiring. I panned my phone toward them real quick to show my girlfriend what I was seeing, just because it was weird and kind of surreal to stumble across two guys in full suits like that in a random gas station at almost 1 a.m. Anyway, I grabbed the drinks and started heading up to the front counter, when I heard one of the guys behind me say something that made my stomach twist a little. He goes, "Make sure you get a shot of his face." And then the other one chimes in like, "Yo, yo," kind of in a rushed tone. I stopped in my tracks and looked over my shoulder, and sure enough, one of them was aiming his phone in my direction, and immediately tried to hide it when I turned around. I said something like, "Hey, what's up?" Not trying to be aggressive, just honestly confused. One of them mumbled, "Never mind," and went right back to pretending to work, but I kept asking if they were okay or needed something, and all I got were these half-baked replies like, "Nothing," or "Don't worry about it." When I asked why they were taking pictures of me, they just ignored it completely. By then, I was really starting to feel like something was off.
Yeah, I'll be thinking something is off because you walk into a store that has people wearing hazmat suits and goggles, you would have thought, oh, they're working on either insulation or trying to get rid of some asbestos problems, right? But then those two guys were trying to take pictures of this person. That ain't right. I mean, all this person did was turn their camera to them guys with FaceTime on. So I don't know what their deal is unless they're up to no good. You keep questioning them, they'll probably get mad though.
So I just walked to the front to pay. I started talking to the cashier and asked him what the guys were even doing up there. And he said they were supposedly changing out the panels in the ceiling. That kind of made sense, I guess. But while we were talking, I kept glancing over and seeing the guys still watching me and whispering to each other. The cashier seemed kind of nervous too, like his energy was off. He was fidgety and kept looking over at them like he didn't want to say too much. I wanted to ask more, but the vibe was so strange that I just grabbed my stuff and got out of there as fast as I could. I didn't want to be in that place a second longer than I had to. As I'm walking back along the sidewalk next to the highway, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I turned around and sure enough, both of those white suit guys were standing outside the gas station by the pumps, just staring down the street in my direction. At that point, I said nope, and straight up sprinted the rest of the way home. I locked my door the second I got inside and just sat there, trying to process what happened. It wasn't just that they were creepy. It was the way they acted when I noticed them taking my picture, like they were trying to cover something up. I'm not trying to jump to conclusions or suggest anything wild, but the whole thing felt wrong on a level I can't explain. I'm usually not the paranoid type, but whatever was going on in that gas station wasn't normal. I've been wide awake ever since, just playing back everything in my head and wondering if I accidentally stumbled into something I shouldn't have seen. If anyone's ever had something like this happen or knows what that might have been, I'd love to hear it. Because right now, I can't stop thinking about it, and every worst-case scenario keeps running through my brain.
Yeah, if they're supposed to be replacing ceiling tile, they should not be snickering to each other or looking over at a customer talking to the cashier. So it makes you wonder, were they even hiding something there as well? Or something else was going down? Because that is really strange that they had to walk out to the gas pumps and just watch where this person was going. I would have been calling the police right then and there just so they can go confront them guys. I don't know what their deal was, but that's really creepy.
This happened a few years ago when I was about 18 and living in a weird little industrial city.
Okay.
It wasn't exactly the safest place. Lots of abandoned buildings, random warehouses, and just a general sketchy vibe once the sun went down. The only things nearby were a grocery store, a U-Haul lot, a few gas stations, and a bunch of closed down or half-functioning businesses. My partner was working the night shift at a 7-Eleven just a short drive up the road. And since I didn't love the idea of him walking home alone at 3 a.m., I'd usually drop him off and pick him up. Sometimes, when the store wasn't too busy, he'd ask me to stop by and hang out for a bit during his shift. And this one night around midnight, I figured I'd do just that. When I pulled into the lot, I parked along the side of the building instead of out front, since I was planning to stay for a while and didn't want to take up a main spot. That side of the lot didn't have any cameras, which I knew, but I didn't think much of it at the time.
Dadgummit, I would have parked in a spot where they got cameras, because if you just walk into a convenience store like that and you think you're just going to talk to the cashier that's working there and hang out, you never know who would be roaming around that area. They might want to break into your car and steal it or steal something out of it. And if you park in an area that don't have no cameras, you won't be able to catch the person in the act. I don't know why I'm getting that feeling that that's going to happen here, but I don't want to jump into no conclusions just yet. So let's continue.
There weren't many cars around, just a couple scattered across the lot, including this newer white pickup truck parked a few spaces over from me. As I was walking toward the front entrance, this guy, probably late 30s or early 40s, stepped out from around the truck and stopped me. At first, I thought maybe he just needed directions or something, but he got in my way a little and started talking about how his truck wouldn't start and asked if I could help. Now, I don't know anything about vehicles. Like, I barely know how to check my own oil. So I just told him that straight up and figured he'd move on. But he didn't. He kept going on about how the truck was acting weird, asking if I could just come take a look, telling me he didn't know what else to do.
No, don't do it. It's probably a trap. The vehicle is working fine, but he's just trying to lure somebody over there for them to check it. And once you're looking it over, he'll probably knock you out and kidnap you. You never know.
I repeated a few times that I wasn't going to be any help, and it started getting weird because he just wasn't backing off. Then he asked what I was doing out so late, and I told him my boyfriend was working inside, and I was just here to see him. As soon as I said that, the whole vibe shifted. He kind of froze for a second, looked uncomfortable, and then stopped talking. I went straight into the store and immediately told my boyfriend that there was some guy outside bugging me. He didn't even hesitate, just walked out with me to check it out. And I swear, the moment that guy saw us both coming, he jumped into his truck like it was already running and peeled out of that parking lot like he was trying to disappear. I don't know if the truck had ever been broken in the first place, but judging by how fast he drove off, it was definitely working just fine. It still creeps me out to think about what might have happened if I'd actually gone closer to his vehicle, because it was pretty clear to me that the whole broken down thing was just a way to lure me over. I didn't manage to get his license plate number because he reversed so fast and took off down the road, and there was no safe way to chase after that info. The whole thing still gives me the chills when I think back on it. Nothing ever came of it, but I've got a strong gut feeling that I narrowly avoided something really bad that night. I never parked on that side of the building again after that. Sometimes it's not what people say that creeps you out. It's how they act when they realize their plan isn't going to work.
Well, thank God there wasn't nobody there to steal your vehicle or steal whatever was in it. But that person parked over there because they known that there were no security cameras there. And if they try to lure somebody to their van to act like they need help fixing it, then they could kidnap them and take off without the cameras picking up any identifying maker's mark of the vehicle or license plate number. But once she said that she was going to see her boyfriend who works there, his attitude changed completely because he didn't get in an altercation with him about what he was saying to his girl. But now she knows to park in a well-lit area where the security cameras are at, so if something like that happened again, hopefully it don't. But if it did, the cameras would catch everything. But yeah, that is really creepy.
I worked the night shift at this old gas station way out in the sticks of Tennessee. It's not on the main road anymore. Apparently, it used to be until a newer freeway was built about 10 years ago. And ever since then, the whole area kind of died out. Most of the surrounding businesses packed up and left, and now the stretch of road is just filled with abandoned buildings that sketchy folks like to hang around in. I'd been working there for a while and had gotten pretty used to how quiet and uneventful most nights were, which is honestly what I liked about it.
Don't want to sound rude, but I'm surprised that that place didn't even close down either when the new highway was built. Since this person said that all the other buildings just went empty and vacant, and nothing but sketchy looking people were showing up, and probably homeless people as well, because they see an abandoned building, they think it's free to sleep in. Even if a place is uneventful, you always still got to be prepared for any bad situation, even though you don't want to think about it.
Anyway, last night I clocked in at 8, and for hours it was totally dead. Like not a single customer. I figured I'd coast through my shift with no problems. Around 11, with just about an hour left before I could head home, I decided I should probably stop being lazy and actually restock a few things. We were running low on barbecue chips, and for some bizarre reason, all of our extra stock is kept in this creepy basement below the store. I've always hated going down there. It's musty, dark, and straight up gives off horror movie vibes. But I didn't think twice since I've done it dozens of times before. So I'm heading down the stairs, trying to psych myself up and ignore the eerie feeling crawling up my spine, when I suddenly hear something, like something heavy fell or got knocked over in the far corner. Right after that, I swear I heard fast footsteps coming toward me. I didn't wait around to find out who or what it was. I just turned and bolted back upstairs, slammed the basement door shut, and locked it. I was totally freaking out. My heart was racing, and I could barely think straight, but I forced myself to check the security feed just to make sure I wasn't imagining things. And that's when I saw him. There was a man down there, standing right in view of the basement camera, just staring up into it. He had this weird grin, like not playful or goofy, but that kind of smile that makes your skin crawl. He didn't look like the usual sketchy guys that come through the area either. This guy was clean cut, wearing jeans and a button down, looked almost normal. But something in his eyes was just off, like deeply off. It was like he knew I was watching and wanted me to see him like that. So I called my boss, even though I knew he wasn't going to be happy about getting a call after midnight. At first he was kind of annoyed, but once he heard how scared I sounded, he changed his tune and told me he'd be there in about 15 minutes. I asked him if I should call the cops, but for whatever reason, he told me not yet, just to lock the front door and make sure whoever was down there didn't come upstairs. I kept watching the monitor, and for another few minutes, the guy just kept standing there, smiling. And then, just like that, he walked out of view. When my boss got there, he brought a shotgun with him, which was both comforting and also kind of terrifying because it made it feel real. We went down to the basement together and there was nothing. No guy, no sign of anyone, no mess, no noise, just silence. My boss ended up brushing it off, saying maybe I was just tired or stressed and maybe my brain filled in the blanks. But I know what I saw. That dude was real. And now I've got to go back there tonight for another shift, and I seriously don't know how I'm going to handle it.
How in the world did he get out? Unless he found a window down there and opened it up and closed it real quick, but shoot, that would scare the crap out of me unless it was a ghost. But thank God you didn't call the police yet, because if they came and searched the place and they didn't find nothing, they'd probably think that you're overstressed and tired from working there as well. But I wouldn't pass it off. You never know, he might come back. And if you had security cameras down there, check them, because you never know if he was caught on one of them or not. Then your boss will believe you. But that is really creepy and spooky all in the same time.
This happened a few years ago, back when I was just a few months pregnant. It wasn't super obvious unless I wore something tight. Those loose, flowy tops could still hide it pretty well, which is something that kind of matters for what happened that day. I had taken my car in for a recall fix, and the dealership hooked me up with a rental car while they worked on it. The only catch was I had to return the rental with a full tank of gas, or I'd get hit with an extra fee, so I stopped at the gas station literally right across the road from the dealership. It was pretty quiet when I pulled in. I parked at one of the pumps farthest from the store.
I cannot believe that you charged somebody an extra fee for not filling it up. I thought some dealerships would have their own gas pumps just to fill up those cars with. But I see that's how they make their money back from renting out cars. I would have went through Enterprise or one of them other car rental businesses.
Closer to the exit so I could zip back over to the dealership easily. No one else was pumping gas on my side, which didn't seem weird at the time. I started filling up, kind of zoning out, when this big pickup truck pulled up on the opposite side of my pump. The guy didn't even line up to get gas. He pulled just far enough to block the view of everyone else, but not far enough to reach the nozzle. Then he rolled down his window and asked me for directions to a store I can't even remember now. I told him how to get there, just pointed and gave him basic turns. But then he held up his phone and said, "I'm not from around here. Can you just show me on the map?" That was when I started to feel that weird gut instinct. that something was off. I mean, if he had a smartphone in his hand, why not just use it like everyone else?
Yeah, I mean, all you gotta do is hit the, if you have a microphone option on your Google search engine, just say where you need to go and then boom, it'll pop up directions. Simple. Unless this guy's technologically impaired, but I guarantee you he's probably playing off that he's lost just so he could probably lure that woman into his car to help him and then he'll take off quick. Oh man, I hope she finds a way to get him to go because she's pregnant and she don't need to go through no scary experience and it might mess her up bad in the long term.
So I kept it polite but firm, just repeating which way he needed to go. Then his tone changed, like, noticeably. He sounded kind of annoyed, like I was being difficult, and then he said, "No, come over here and show me." I told him there was no need, it was just down the street. But he repeated himself, more forcefully, and added, "Come here now, or I'll come over there." That's when the fear really kicked in. I didn't know what he wanted, but I knew it wasn't good. Without even thinking, I sort of grabbed my stomach and said, "No," loud enough for him to hear. And I think that's the moment it clicked for him that I was pregnant. His whole attitude flipped. He didn't say another word. He just slammed the truck into gear and sped off without even looking back. I still don't know what his plan was, but I know for sure it wasn't just about directions. I think seeing that I was pregnant messed with whatever idea he had in his head. That whole moment still sticks with me. Now, anytime I stop for gas, especially if I'm alone, I make sure to stay near other people or at least keep my eyes up. That one experience changed how I approach something as basic as filling up my tank.
Thank God your baby literally saved your life. Because it seemed like he wanted to get you to walk over to him and then grab you and put you in the truck. But once he saw that you were pregnant, he's changed his mind and he didn't want to mess with you. And I know he was mad driving off. Well, you shouldn't be trying to trick lonely women into getting you directions and try to take them. But thank God she didn't get hurt during this altercation. Because I would have been furious if he got out of his truck and tried to assault her and did some harm to her kid.
All right, so this one's from a few years back when I was still a teenager living in this tiny, nothing ever happens kind of town.
Right?
Since then, I've moved on to a bigger city and a better life. But this weird little story from my gas station job still gets a crazy reaction whenever I share it. So I figured, why not write it down and let it live on somewhere other than my group chats? Okay, so for context, this gas station I worked at, total dump, right on the edge of town where all the weirdos seemed to gather. It had this creepy, off-feeling vibe, like the kind of place that probably had at least one ghost squatting in the back freezer. Sometimes we'd hear crashes from the stockroom, like full boxes just falling over on their own. Could have been mice. Could have been something way weirder, but no one ever really figured it out. We had more police show up than I'd like to admit, usually to arrest someone already inside the store, and I'd lost track of how many times I felt genuinely unsafe working there. But money's money, and the coworkers were chill, so I stuck around. Anyway, on this one particular day, the weather was all gray and rainy and just gross. I'd just finished a full day of school, and honestly, I wasn't even in the mood to show up, but no one wanted to cover for me. As soon as I walked through the door, this super strong gasoline smell hit me like a punch in the face, like really overpowering. I asked the morning crew and my supervisor what was going on, and all they had to say was, "Yeah, weird. Just try to power through it." So I did what I always did. Started restocking chips, cleaning up the slushy machine, and serving the occasional sketchy customer. Honestly, the first part of the shift was going pretty smoothly. We were all definitely feeling the effects of the fumes a bit, which, hilariously enough, kind of made the annoying customers easier to tolerate. I was sitting behind the register, munching on nachos and sipping cherry slush, when my coworker, let's call them R, came up and said they were stepping out back for a smoke. I offered them a nacho on the way out, but they passed, and that was that. About 5 minutes later, R comes barging back in, holding two things in their hands like they just won a twisted version of a scavenger hunt. One was a busted-up metal vent cover, and the other, an actual open propane tank. And I'm sitting there, still halfway through my nachos, completely confused as R goes, "Hey, look what I found behind the store." I kind of laughed at first, thinking they were joking or just found it dumped out there. But then they hit me with the kicker. This is why the store smells like death. The whole place is filled with propane fumes right now.
Oh, heck no. Seems like somebody's trying to burn the whole place down or kill everybody in the store. It seems like. Call the police right now and get out of the store before you keep breathing in all that propane, because it'll mess up your lungs.
That's when it hit me that maybe this wasn't so funny. R looked dead serious when they said, "If anyone lights anything, like a match, a lighter, or even turns on the damn coffee machine, we're toast. The whole building would blow sky high." I was still a little out of it from the fumes, so my response was just, "Oh, so, should we call our boss, or..." And yeah, we did. About 30 minutes later, the parking lot looked like a disaster movie. Fire trucks, cops, the whole deal. R and I just sat inside like we always did. They were scrolling on their phone, probably watching TikToks, and I was sipping the worst cup of gas station coffee ever made and reading some old paperback. Eventually, I asked our boss what he wanted us to do, and he just shrugged and told us to clock out and go home. I wasn't even mad. I'd made it through most of the shift and still got paid. Plus, I was pretty much floating from all the gas I'd unknowingly inhaled. So I went home, devoured an entire pot of mac and cheese, and passed out like a rock. To this day, I still have no clue who left that propane tank out there. And honestly, I never cared enough to ask.
Well, thank God that employee that went out for a smoke break saw it before he lit his cigarette, because if he didn't, they all would have been blown sky high and toast, like he said. It was probably some sick individual out there that wanted to see them die from propane poison. But thank God they did the right thing, just called their boss, and they got the fire department and police to show up, and they tried to do an investigation, but that is just crazy that somebody would do that. If the police figured out who did it, I hope they got arrested. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more Midnight Terrorist content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man Score channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. That's a wrap, and have a nice day, y'all.